You don't hear anything, right? It felt as though someone was trying to knock on my door. Okay, so today we're going to educate ourselves about um, multipolar nations, or the concept of multipolar. Like, what is it about? What is multipolar, and why suddenly many people are talking about multipolar concept, like this concept. So I didn't even do any research, to be honest. I just um found these interesting topics that would help us explain what is multipolar, and like how does it affect the US economy as a whole, or the US power as a nation, as a country that has dominated the world for years now, not for centuries but for years. Okay, so recently, CBS News, which is the United States News, they reported that US debt exceeds country's GDP for the first time since World War II. So basically, this is what is happening in the United States. Okay, let's see. We, we are going to learn about the United States debt crisis. I don't know, it seems as if someone is trying to, I don't know. I don't know if there is someone there or what's going on. It is not clear. It is not clear. Ding, ding, ding. Okay. What's going on? Oh, okay, we are going to, I'm going to play the, oops, oops. I'm going to play the, what is it? Oh, it says someone get it. Get it. What does it mean, get it? Get it. Okay, no. I have the first video. So the first United States problem that I'm going to talk about is their debt crisis. Like, how much money do they owe? Which countries do they owe? And how does this debt affect the economy of the United States? So, as I've already said, that recently, actually, it's like 4 days ago, CBS News reported that U.S. debt exceeds country's GDP for the first time since World War II. So, we're going to start with this video to understand the collapse of the U.S. dominance. It is not like the collapse of the country as a whole, but it is just specifically dominance, because apparently it seems as though the world is shifting towards this multipolar system. $7 trillion by the to the U.S. Gross domestic product, which is 0.05 trillion. To the U.S. Wait, what? To the US dollar. Dollars less. Now okay, the numbers are from. Let me start over. The United States has hit a grim financial milestone. For the first time since World War II, our national debt is now larger than our entire annual economic output. Public debt climbed to $31.27 trillion by the end of April, and that is compared to the U.S. Gross domestic product, which is $0.05 trillion less. Now, the numbers are from a nonprofit think tank based in Washington, D.C. I want to bring in CBS News business contributor Javier David. Javier, thank you for your time today. So, first off, how did we get here?
Yeah, look, we have these record-shattering stock market valuations that we talk about all the time, but it obscures a very inconvenient and very important, more important development. In short, we just have a spending problem.
Thank you.
Both major parties.
Thank you,
They keep running
Catnap.
ahead of tax revenues. There's no even the slightest pretense of reforms that would rein in all this deficit spending. And we talk a lot in these debates about discretionary and defense spending, but really most of the heat and light in the federal budget really takes place in entitlement spending. So what we're really talking about is Social Security and Medicare, and the lack of revenue means Uncle Sam's got to issue debt in order to cover all of its spending needs, and we're now at this point where the government is just paying more interest costs, and that's even outstripping Medicare and National Security. So we have an aging society, costs are spiraling higher, and there's really no guarantee that we can continue to just simply kind of grow our way out of this, or foreigners will continue to finance the U.S. government's profligacy.
And can you help us make sense of the big picture here? Okay? Can you talk about the risks associated with rising debt and where that ultimately leads us?
Yeah, look, the term that's being floated around, or refloated, really is fiscal or
Bye
sovereign debt
bye.
crisis. And we've seen this
Catnap.
usually when we're talking about it, it's in third world countries or emerging markets. But we have problems here of our own. That entails borrowing costs spiking above the Treasury's ability to kind of contain the fallout from that, or even just keep the bills paid. And that means bond investors demand a higher premium to hold U.S. debt, and they just have less appetite to do so. So the Committee for a Responsible Federal Budget defines it as a crisis, as like this sharp rise in interest rates on debt that will significantly reduce the value of existing debt. In short, but that just spirals further out of control.
Is there any way to make sure this does not spiral further out of control? Is there even an answer to that?
Well, the answer, of course, is we need to get our spending under control, but there's no sign of that. The Treasury has lost. The Treasury debt has been losing a lot of what it calls its risk-free allure. People want Treasuries because they're safe and they're liquid, but there are all these risks out there, and investors just are getting much more and more skeptical about paying the bills. And now we have the Iran war, we have tariffs, inflation risks are skewed decisively higher, and it makes bond investors demand these higher yields just to incentivize holding the U.S. debt, and we're rapidly appointing this point of just kind of losing control of the narrative.
Wow, so much to keep our eye on and hope things get better down the line for our kids and our kids' kids. Javier David.
So apparently that is the current situation in the United States, that their debt exceeds the country's GDP. That is just the current state, but we don't know how it is going to unfold. But I see Jazeera English here. They try to make predictions as to how this issue will affect the United States in the future. Let's hear what they have to say.
Booking an apartment with good Wi-Fi is great.
But it is crazy, right? Can you imagine a superpower, like the biggest or the most influential country in the world, owing more than it makes a year? That's insane.
Exceeding.
And you wonder, like, why do they keep borrowing so much money? Like, what happened? Why? Why do they have so much debt? Like, what do they take this money for? Because when you learn or you read about the United States, is that even their schools are not free, their hospitals are not free. So where does this money go? I also saw recently Hexeth said that they needed 200 billion. They needed like 200 billion for this war with Iran. Can you imagine 200 billion just to fight a war that is unnecessary? That is insane. Those people are led by crazy people. And I think one thing most people, like, we tend to ignore with respect to this kind of crisis is that, oh, it doesn't affect me directly, so I don't care. No, it does affect you directly, because let's say this book that normally you buy for $1, in the future you are going to buy it for $4. That's what happens when the economy of the country isn't functioning well. It's like everything is just going to go up, and then when things goes up, it doesn't mean like the salaries also increase. It means that people will earn more than, people are going to spend more than they earn, which is impossible. That is why I'm not sure about the United States, but right now I live in Thailand, and there are many people from the United States who have moved here permanently because the because the current living condition in the United States, it is quite difficult for people to survive. It is not even a joke. There are so many people in the United States who cannot even afford accommodation. Like many people, I've seen like another video where people sleep in their cars because they cannot afford to pay rent. So people, they wake up in the morning and then they go to, I don't know where they shower, but they shower somewhere. Then then they go to work. That is the current situation there. But anyways, let us see how this current U.S. debt crisis is heading towards I don't know. Let's say I don't know the future of that country. They say U.S. borrowing exceeds GDP. Okay, what does it mean for the economy exactly?
This is America, and that is the US Treasury. Here, the national debt has exceeded GDP for the first time since World War II. That costs the government one in interest alone. Dealing with the world's largest economy, and can it bring that ever increasing
I
number under
see?
control? We'll be
See
back with more
what?
on that later, but first, here's Cyril Vanier in our Washington
What do you
studio.
want to see?
Alex Baird, thank you very much. The United States is the most indebted country in the world. Almost every year in my lifetime and yours, the U.S. government has chosen to spend more money than it collects, sometimes a lot more. Over decades, that builds up, and the national debt now stands at $39 trillion, exceeding the entire U.S. economy. Now, that is something we
That's
have not seen
crazy.
since World War II. Is it sustainable? U.S. President Donald Trump, who has added to the debt himself, has flagged it as a vulnerability for years.
We have found over the last 7 years, we have found tremendous wealth right under our feet. So good, especially when you have 20 trillion in debt. The Obamacare repeal and replace plan would significantly reduce the federal deficit. When I heard we were going to Iraq, somebody said, "Oh, we're going for the oil. $15 trillion. That does a lot to solve our deficit
That's a
problem,
lot.
doesn't it? Growth is the way. If we grow like this, we go from having a 37.
But politicians are quite interesting, right? So these are old videos of Trump where like he was bashing Barack Obama for borrowing, I don't know, 15 trillion I mean $15 trillion for the war with Iraq. So like back then when he was still campaigning for the presidency, he himself he promised these people that he will somehow pay off this debt and he will never ever go to war with any country because according to Trump he's a good negotiator, but unfortunately he is in war with Iran today, which means he's not a good negotiator.
36, $37 trillion. We go from having high debt to low debt. I will bring our energy companies back. They'll be able to compete. They'll make money. They'll pay off our national debt.
Imagine being able to build an
This
app
is
on your
what
phone
Trump promised these
just by
people.
thinking about it. Meet Base 40.
So $39 trillion, that number is enough of a concern in the US that it's posted on websites, billboards,
Wait,
and
so it
bus
went
stops.
from $21 trillion under the Biden administration, and under the Trump's administration now it is like $39 trillion. That is crazy. The jump is
where
crazy.
everyone can track the debt live. Alex Baird walks us through the number and what it means.
Blessed are the young, for they shall inherit the national debt. That was President Hoover in 1936. And that blessing per person is getting pretty big. Keep following our counter in the corner there for just how fast that's growing on average. But in the meantime, let's break down what that number means.
It's like
The national debt is
not
similar to a
39,
person
it's
using
like
a credit
38
card and not paying off the
trillion.
full balance each month. That means the federal government can pay for services even when it doesn't have money. And why wouldn't it? Experts say it's down to an aging population, rising healthcare costs, and a tax system that doesn't generate enough revenue.
Wait, do they have like aging population? See you tomorrow. Okay, wait. Does the United States have aging population? I think like most countries across the globe today, they just have aging population. Most countries, except for like third world countries, like emerging economies. first world countries, they all have aging issues.
US Treasury doesn't have enough money to pay the bills. Right now, US national debt is so big, it's larger than the entire economy of the country. Around one third of that publicly held debt is owned by foreigners. The top three countries, Japan, the UK, and China. The rest is held here at home, mostly by government trust funds, big financial institutions, and the Federal Reserve. They own around 1/6 of that number, still ticking away up there. But it wasn't always that big. The US has been in debt from the start, nearly 250 years ago, due to Revolutionary War costs. By 1835, that had all been paid back, and that was the last time debt was at zero. It hit 1 billion in 1860.
Like 1850? Which year? That's crazy.
Financial institutions and the Federal Reserve. They own around 1/6 of that number, still ticking away up there. But it wasn't always that big. The US has been in debt from the start, nearly 250 years ago, due to Revolutionary War costs. By 1835, that had all been paid back, and that was the last time debt.
So, in 1835, this was the last time the United States owed any country any money. Like here, they had like zero international debt.
Was it zero? It hit 1 billion in 1863 during the Civil War,
1
500 billion in the mid-70s, and that doubled to $1 trillion by the 80s.
Like this goes to show that like the country doesn't really learn. That when you start endless wars, you just adding up to like generational debts. Because when you like based on this chart here, right, from 1835 they had zero international debt because they didn't have any wars there, and then they had civil war. That's when they started having like international debts.
Since then, debt has ballooned and fast. And in the last couple of years, annual interest payments hit $1 trillion. That's a lot of money, and there's still no plan to actively pay it back. Instead, the government repeatedly raises the borrowing limit through Congress. That's the debt ceiling you hear about every couple of years. When Congress doesn't agree on a budget in time, that's when you get a government shutdown. But if they don't play ball on that debt limit, it would be even worse. That would be a US government default. That hasn't happened yet, but as that number keeps growing, so does the fear that it could.
So the national debt's practical impact on Americans, that's hotly debated by economists. Its most visible consequences are higher borrowing rates and the concern that future generations will end up paying the price. Heidi Jo Castro reports.
If you ask the average American about their country's national debt, few would tell you that it is a primary concern. But ask anyone trying to buy a car or a house or anything that requires a loan, well, the interest rate that they pay is linked to the interest rate the government pays for its own growing debt.
I'm going to show you this one house that sold in my neighborhood.
Ayana Brickhouse is a real estate agent in Springfield, Virginia. She's seen less buying and selling of homes as mortgage rates have risen in recent years. That's because mortgage interest rates are pushed up by treasury yields, which are pushed up by the national debt.
I'm really concerned about it because it means that it's harder for people to buy, to see the American dream. As an American, like part of how people have built their wealth is through real estate.
The national debt can lead to higher borrowing costs for loans that touch many aspects of American life. And currently, the average U.S. household debt is $105,000. Gail Austin Lancaster is picking up great food from Hannah, a community aid group in Maryland. She says the U.S. economy is in bad shape due to Washington's recent policies.
With Trump in, hold on to every cent you can.
And she worries the national debt will become future generations' pain. President after president has postponed dealing with the problem, but eventually the U.S. will have to raise taxes, cut services, or default.
And then my grandkids, I'm so sorry for them that they're going to have to.
But also, like, it's crazy. Like, I do want to, like, okay, they're saying, yes, it is a fact. The future generations are the one who are going to feel this pain of the national debt that the United States it is currently involved or currently going through. But like you ask yourself about the future because they're saying, okay, the future generations are going to feel the pain, right? But then now when you think about the future, already people that are talking about like AI or let's say robots replacing people at workplaces, and then it's like what are human beings even going to be doing in the future, or what is it that the United States people or the American people will be doing in the future that will help them repay their debts? Because it's like there isn't anything that I would say maybe people will be doing that will help like boost the economy of the United States as of now, was like nobody really knows. Nobody knows what kind of jobs will be there, what kind of entertainment will be there, what kind of developments in general will be there that the American people will lead the world with. Because remember, the country becomes rich if it leads in something. Because when it comes to entertainment today, the United States doesn't lead in entertainment anymore. When it comes to innovations like these AI innovations or like technological innovations, the United States doesn't lead anymore. When it comes to, okay, we know right now that the dollar, it is still the currency of uh international transaction or international exchange, but we don't know the future of that as well, because as you can see with the Iran war, it seems as if in the future, maybe, we don't know, maybe there will be another currency that it is stronger than the US dollar. And if that's the case, that means that there is a likelihood that the United States as a country or its economy will definitely shut down.
Challenges. As a retired accountant, she stresses personal fiscal responsibility.
There is just a lot going on in the United States, right? Like there is just a lot. It's crazy that like Donald Trump started the war with Iran, considering what's going on. Like already many people in the United States, they are complaining about the food that they consume, because apparently it seems as if the food that they consume, it isn't real food. They call them, I don't know, NG, I don't know what do they call the food? GMOs or whatever. Let me see. GMOs. You know this food that they use chemicals to make? GMO food. I'm not sure if that's the correct word. Ah, it's genetically, okay, wait. Genetically modified foods. It's called what? GMF. What I say GM? Oh, GMOs. Genetically modified foods are derived from organisms, crops, animals, microorganisms whose genetic material DNA has been altered using engineering techniques, blah, 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 all of that. So already people are protesting against like food issues or food security, meaning like the United States, they have like food security issues, but then they have their president right now in unnecessary war. So it's just a lot going on in that country.
She wishes the U.S. government put more emphasis on the same. Heidi Jo Castro, Al Jazeera, Silver Spring, Maryland.
And joining us now to discuss this, economist Nicholas Loris is with us in the studio, and Jeff Ferry is Chief Economist Emeritus at Coalition for a Prosperous America. So, gentlemen, let's start with this. How concerned are you on a scale of 1 to 10 about the U.S. national debt? How worried should we be?
Yeah, I'd say it's about a 9. I mean, when I first started
9.
working in Washington, D.C.,
So
20.
on a scale of 1 to 10, the United States or the Americans, I don't know how to call them, Americans, the American people, they must be concerned about this issue of
Years
debt.
ago, it was a concern, and it's only gotten worse. And
Oh, do you know why I'm saying that I'm struggling to say American? Because like America or the United States, the country is like multicultural, and also I think, is it multinational, because there are different groups of people there. I'm not sure if when people like live there they call themselves Americans, because there is always like debates when it comes to the United States, especially with regard to anything.
It's not just the
They are
fact that we're talking
Americans,
about this
they
100%
are
number of GDP. It's really the continued
Spanish.
trajectory of where we're going. If you look at estimates by the Congressional Budget Office, academia, if you look at nonpartisan think tanks, it's only getting worse, and it could be, as high as 117% by 2034. It could be up to 120% by 2036 in the next decade, and then you're talking about 176% of of GDP over the next 30 to 40 years. So the trajectory is really concerning from a fiscal standpoint.
Jeff Berry, what's your level of concern?
Happy Horse 1.0 is now on our
Happy
list. The
Horse.
most capable video model yet is here.
So, guys, when your country, like they borrow money from other countries, you need to normalize protesting. Otherwise, your countries will end up like the United States, where its debt exceeds its GDP.
Well, I
And
wouldn't
also,
say
like it's quite concerning considering the power that the country holds. I think like one of the main reason I decided to like really check or look into this was because I know for a fact that the US, like it has been a dominant country for like for a decade now, for many years actually. But like I was a little bit curious, like why, like how is it even possible that their international debt or the national debt exceeds the GDP? But also I think what made me curious more was the fact that a while ago I saw there was this video. I was just like browsing through social media, and then I saw this video of like an American guy, and then he explained something that he said many Americans they don't know about this, and the government is hiding it because if the American people knew about what was happening in the US, many people would be angry. So he says something like the US owes China, I forgot how much it was. It was a lot of money, actual billions, if not trillions. And he said, considering the reality that the United States always want to portray itself as like the biggest economy in the world, as if like they are bigger and better than China, but the reality is that they are the ones who owe China a lot of money. So it was an American guy, like this economist, the ones who know about these debts or the economic issues in the United States or globally. But you know, now the Treasury of the US just published it. The US, the US debts exceed GDP. So that means that guy wasn't lying when he said that the United States owes China a lot of money. And many Americans they don't even know about that.
it's 9, but I'd say it's about 6 or 7. And I share many of Nicholas's concerns.
6
I
or
think,
9,
debt
6,
continues
7.
to grow, and it will be a burden that our children or grandchildren will have to pay back at some
You
point.
know, they keep saying this, right? I will repeat again. They keep saying our children, our grandchildren will will be affected, right? The most, which I'm not disputing. But then again, I'm saying like we don't even know what's going to happen in the future with this AI going on, like with this AI going on and the robots and everything. So can you imagine your country is in debt and there aren't even jobs for you guys to do to earn like a living? Like what exactly are people even going to be doing in the next coming 20 years? Nobody knows. We don't know.
It'll be a burden for them. But I think what worries me most of all is congressional irresponsibility. I mean, we had the Biden administration raise the deficit level, which adds to the debt each year to $2 trillion a year. We now, or I should say, the Democrats did that, and now we have the Republicans who've maintained a $2 trillion deficit, adding to the debt every year. And so, like children who are out of control, when Congress gets in the habit of designing a budget that has a $2 trillion deficit every single year, it's hard to get them to control it and to return to sanity. And it could take an international crisis to return our government to sanity in terms of debt and spending and borrowing and taxation, which all go together.
Yeah, so those are some of the things that we want to explore. You both agree that the size of the debt relative to the U.S. economy is just going to continue to increase. And we've asked why that's a problem. So what are the dangers of allowing the national debt to continue at such a high level? Is it a financial catastrophe waiting to happen? Yes, no. We had a 9 out of 10, 6, 7 out of 10. What could lead to a tipping point? Richard Gaisford considers the issues.
Well, if any one of us let our finances get out of control, ran up a big debt that we couldn't afford to pay back, then we'd be at risk of losing our homes, our businesses, and having to fend for ourselves. But that's
like,
not the case for governments that can keep borrowing to cover their expenditure when their income doesn't match.
I think this is what leads to a lot of abandoned properties in the future. You will go to many countries, right? I would say South Africa, for example, my country. We have a lot of abandoned buildings, and I think that was as a result um, of debts, because you can own a property, but for you to be able to sustain or for you to be able to maintain your property, there is an amount of money that you have to pay to the government yearly or even monthly. So some people, they end up just abandoning their properties. So I think that is going to be the crisis in the United States, because a lot of people don't be able to like maintain these properties, so they will just abandon them, and then the properties will just decay.
That's their outgoings. Well, they might look to cut public spending, but far too often they kick that can down the road, knowing at some point it'll be someone else's problem. Well, with national debt now equating to roughly $288,000 per household, will the US ever reach breaking point? And for how far and for how long can they keep on kicking that can down the road? Whilst the dollar remains the global reserve currency, there are plenty of investors wanting to buy it through US issued bonds. But if the world fell out of love with America and its greenbacks, well, then the government would be forced to pay much higher.
And this also, it is very dangerous, because okay, we still know that the dollar, right? We know that the dollar, it is still powerful right now, right? It is still powerful, but because of this culture of the United States of sanctioning countries when they don't agree with those countries, it is what is going to kill the dollar. Because as you can see in China or even other nations, right? Let's use Iran as an example. Iran has been sanctioned for like 40 years, like 40 years. But when Iran attacked when the US attacked Iran, many people thought that no, this war is just going to be like the Venezuela issue. It's just going to be over within a week. But like that is not the case. Like the Iranians, they're persistent. They keep like they're persistent. They're not throwing in the towel. And even their economy is not even affected as much as the United States economy is affected. Like make that make sense, right? We have the US, the most powerful country in the world. Its debt exceeds its GDP. We have Iran that has been sanctioned for 40 years. Its economy, it is like stable, or it is better than the economy of the United States. That's crazy. So this goes to show that these sanctions imposed by the United States, they are becoming irrelevant or redundant as time goes by. Like they don't make or they don't have any impact in like those nations anymore. Okay, the country that I can say right now it is heavily affected by the sanctions, it is Cuba, right? Yes, in Cuba we do see on the ground that they are actually affected. But look at Iran. In Iran, the sanctions made no difference. That country still functions as like even better maybe before the sanctions.
Interest rates on its debt. That could certainly put a squeeze on spending for things like education, defense, and health. In fact, the US government already spends more servicing its debt than it does individually for defense and Medicaid. The non-partisan Committee for a Responsible Federal Budget is worried. It forecasts that within 5 years, the average amount of...
Oh, sorry? Only those truly serving God will remain, and true people of God never serve the gospel. I'm not religious. I'm sorry. I will try to make one video, or I will try to go live talking about religion someday. I'm not religious, but at the same time, I do respect other people's religion and beliefs. Like, honestly speaking, I feel like people can do whatever they do with their lives as long as they don't offend other people or they don't mistreat other people. I'm good with that, but personally, so I'm not religious, and yeah, when it comes to the matters of the gospel, God, and I don't know what other terminologies are there with respect to religion, but I'm not religious. Matthew says transgender people are born that way and God prefers same sex marriage. I don't know about that. I have no idea, but I don't know. I don't know. I cannot argue something that I don't know. I don't know. I've never in my life taken a Bible and read it. I've tried, when you are young, of course, your family will take you to church. I've been to many churches and I just didn't feel whatever that people say they feel when they go to churches. So, world peace is coming for those that remain. We don't know about that. We don't know. Trumpers all took the mark. So, I am Elijah. Go read my page for the full truth to see what's coming and to be here for the kingdom of heaven. Huh. Very interesting. You know, very interesting, very interesting. You know what? I will have a live about religion in the future, and I hope Elijah you are there, and we can argue about religion and whatever that you say is coming. Yeah.
Interest paid to service the national debt could exceed the amount of economic growth in the United States, and that would lead to a debt
I don't understand.
spiral.
Like, what about marriage?
To say that I love this job is an understatement.
I've been on the data
People are no longer getting married these days. Like, marriages.
annotation platform for about
Well, there's widespread agreement.
You know what? I would go live and talk about religion. Actually, there was this documentary that I watched recently about this American family who used to, I don't know, to preach the holy God, whatever those kind of things. But like years later, because these things they always get revealed years later. Like that family was fake, and the family was idolized by so many, and the family was involved in, like, those protests against gays, no gay, no this and this, and then the very same people they were found to have been committing all sorts of crimes. Rapture is for the wicked. God's true people will soon celebrate, literally shine with light and light. Let me tell you something, right? I'm not disagreeing with the things that you are saying. Human beings are flawed. That is just the reality. All human beings are flawed. It's just that some of us we are able to prohibit ourselves from taking things further, but we do have nasty thoughts. We do have crazy thoughts. It's just a human nature. Human beings are flawed naturally, but at the same time, we do have the power to stop ourselves from causing more damage or even doing bad. So, world peace. Will there ever be peace in the world? I don't know. I have no idea. I don't know. Maybe. I hope so. And especially, for me, I would be happy to live in a world where there is no war. I feel like one thing that I oppose wholeheartedly, it is war. I am against war 100%. Today I saw a video of Palestinians running. They have like this Palestinians marathon there in I think it's in Gaza. What was heartbreaking about that video is seeing so many people, young people, like without legs, without hands. I think that for me was like, wow, war is something that as people we should never support, because you can imagine young people amputated, like it's crazy. So yeah.
That level of US national debt is unsustainable, but with
39
it
trillion.
forecast to grow to 175% of the country's economic output within 30 years, it seems there's still no consensus on how to deal with it. They'll keep on kicking that can down the street. Richard Gatesford, Al Jazeera, Washington, D.C. Nicholas Doris, you're
Okay, so that was the first factor, right? Because the title of my live is the collapse of the US dominance. So the first factor, it is with respect to its debt. So the debt of the United States is one of the reason why why the dominance of the country is collapsing. The second fact or factor is political division. So we are going to find a video that explains the ongoing political division in the United States right now. Right now. But then, like, as you can see with the war with Iran, I think you are aware that the Democrats and the Republics right now, they don't see eye to eye, not only with the war with Iran, but also with that Epstein file. So the second factor for the collapse of the United States is the political division. The political division is another factor. So I'm not finding. Oh, I like this woman, Anna. This woman, let me show you. This one in the middle. I like watching her podcast. Not, it's like, I think they have like a news house or platform. Why American political discourse become, and there's something that she once said about religion, Elijah. But then again, I will talk about religion someday. But there was this one thing she said about religion that was very interesting. Okay, so the first factor why the United States is collapsing, it is the debt crisis. The second factor is the political division. So now let's learn about the United States political division from Anna. Becomes more and more divisive, why American political discourse becomes more and more divisive, why American politics continues to be more polarized, and why, as he writes in the headline, why the past 10 years of American life have been uniquely stupid. It's not just a phase. And so it's a lengthy piece, takes about an hour to read, but it's worth the read. He talks about how social media has played a massive role, but not necessarily social media because of what it is inherently, but rather what it has turned into over the years, how it has prioritized virality, and how the desire to market oneself or build one's brand has unfortunately led to a small group of people on both sides of the political spectrum, extreme ends of the political spectrum, essentially dominating the discourse while simultaneously silencing those who want to have a more nuanced discussion about current events and politics. Why?
exposing the secrets behind the U.S. government.
Based on my observation, right? American political. But I think this is just the reality with many countries. It is quite rare to find political parties agreeing on one thing. It's very, very rare. And also, I think when it comes to political division, right, one of the main causes will be being led by people who are not political but business people, which it is something that it is happening in many countries where you find people who don't even have interest in politics. They are just pushed into politics because okay, these people they have money, you know. So that is one of the factor that I think, or one of the reasons why many countries are likely to have political divisions. So yeah, political divisions in the United States right now, I think it is something serious, very, very serious, because it also stretches or involve like religion, especially like the Christians, because people right now are very, very concerned when it comes to Christianity in the United States with this Islam issues. So there are a lot of issues going on in the United States, and considering the Trump administration, right? You hear these people say this thing that oh, they are saving so that they can protect the Israelis and and those kind of things. And then on the other hand, you see the Israelis um, harassing Christians or saying like very, very, very radical things about Christians. You saw one of the videos where like the Israeli soldiers they demolished like the statue of Jesus Christ in Lebanon, the south of Lebanon. So also like when it comes to religion, also can play a factor as to why the United States politics or like the people are divided, because you have a whole like a whole presentation, or like the people who are supposed to present the nation. These people, they're supporting people who are against what the country stands for, which is respect to other people's religion. But then it's just contradictory, it doesn't make sense. You support Israel, Israel is against Christianity, and then the Americans are Christians, so it's like it's crazy. So of course, as a result of that, people won't see eye to eye. Like politicians or parties will be divided. So that was the second factor. Oh my God. Oh my God. So that was a second factor as to why the US dominance is collapsing, right? Number one, the first factor is that debt crisis. Number two, political division, right? The political division in the United States, it is quite visible because of this Iranian war, because many and now when it comes to this Iran, the Iran war, it is not even about the Democrats anymore. Even many Republicans, or the republics, many republics, they have come out. We have like I normally watch videos of Tucker. I like him. I mean, I just discovered him recently. Tucker, what is the other person who used to be like pro like MAGA? There are so many people who used to be pro MAGA. They are no longer pro MAGA right now because of the Iran war. So you see, this Iran war also, it is causing the political division in the United States, because people don't support the war. Also, people, they want the answers with the Epstein files or the Epstein class. Okay, so we have the economic decline. The economic decline, will just put it alongside the debt crisis. So the economic decline in the United States, it is as a result of the debt. I mean, like I would say, it relates to debt crisis. And one of the other reasons, I would say, the economic decline in the United States. Let's see. Economic decline in the USA. But the economy normally, it declines as a result to debt. So let's see. So the US economy is collapsing from the inside out. All these videos are long. Okay, I think we just have to pause. Okay, we can just watch this video briefly.
The US economy isn't weakening, it's collapsing from the inside out, and the proof is everywhere. When a country introduces 50-year mortgages, 15-year car loans, and rent spikes of 30% in 1 year, it means the system has already failed. Families are cramming into sheds, professionals earning six figures are moving back home, and grocery bills are hitting $500 a week just to survive. Medical insurance doubles overnight. Property taxes jump by $5,000 to $8,000 in a single billing cycle. This isn't inflation. This is structural breakdown. A nation quietly entering its most dangerous economic phase in decades. The first and most undeniable signal that the US economy is breaking apart is the collapse of basic housing mechanics. When affordability dies, every other sector follows. And that collapse is now visible from Miami to Chicago to Southern California. The arrival of 50-year mortgages proves households can no longer meet even the minimum thresholds of traditional lending. A loan stretched across half a century isn't innovation. It's an admission that conventional income levels can't support current home prices under any economic model. Across major metros, the strain is quantified.
So this again, it goes back to the debt crisis, right? Because remember, when they increase the taxes, they look into, okay, how much money can we collect from our people so that we can pay the interest for like our global debts. So the economic decline in the United States, it relates back to the debt crisis. So far we have identified how many? Three factors um, that are currently affecting the US dominance, or or three factors that leads to the collapse of the United States. Okay, so now we have the fourth point, which is the military overreach. Oh, military overstretch. Okay, this one is military overstretch. It is, I don't want to say obvious, but as I don't know, I saw a video. Okay, it's videos. I don't know. I'm not an American person. I saw a video from one of I don't know, a veteran. And then this man, he was asked, how many bases does the United States have globally? And I think this guy said something about 800 bases. That's crazy. Remember, when a country has bases all over the world, that's like that's expenses. That means this country spends money to sustain those bases because there are people stationed there, right? There are people also there is equipment needed. There are a lot of things that are needed to maintain a base. So the military overstretch also is one of the reasons why the US dominance is collapsing right now. Again, the Iran war also plays a role here right now because as you have seen in the previous months, not previous months, it was like just last month when the no when did the Iran war started on the 28th of February, right? So the United States together with Israel, they attacked Iran on the 28th of February, right? And when they did that, remember, the United States didn't know what to expect, to be honest. Based on like the current situation, I can conclude that when the United States attacked Iran, they had no idea what was going to happen after. I think they just made a decision based on whatever info or intel that they got from Israel or whoever the advisors were, but they didn't know what was going to happen after. So this, okay, back on the military of what's it called, overstretch, right? So we know that the United States, like it has bases in the Gulf states, right? They do, but remember, as soon as the United States attacked Iran, the next day, the following day, right? The following day, Iran attacked the bases, in the Gulf. So by doing so, that weakened the military capability of the US in the Gulf states. And then this military overstretch didn't just end there. Remember, we have NATO, right? We have NATO. And I think sometimes people need to educate themselves about the foreign policies of their countries. So I don't know much about NATO, but what I've learned about NATO is that it is a defense. It is a defense military, right? It is not for attacking countries. So as after Iran attacked the US bases in the Gulf states, we've seen Trump asking NATO to intervene, or even asking to use the other NATO nations bases in the Gulf. But those countries, they refused. They said, no, we're not going to be part of this war because this war it is illegal. Also, you did not consult us before attacking Iran. So that means that the military capability of the United States weakened like within a week in this war with Iran, within a week. And on top of that, now their relationship with NATO also, we don't know where it stands right now. So the fourth factor, as to why the US dominance is collapsing, it is this military overstretch. Military overstretch from having many bases across the globe that need to be maintained because they have bases in the Gulf, they have bases in, I think, Japan or and South Korea. I'm not sure which other countries the United States have bases, but they have, so in total, like I said earlier, based on what I heard or what I saw online, is that the United States have 800, like 800 base across across the globe, in Europe, in Asia, in the Middle East. But now the military itself, it's money. It needs money to be maintained. You've seen Hexeth last month saying that Pentagon needs 200 billion to fight this Iran war, because apparently the thing is, like, with when it comes to Pentagon, right? I think they never communicate the truth, especially with the Iran war or with whatever that has to do with them. Everything that comes out of that group or those people, most of the things are lies, because when you pay attention to this Iran war, right? Based on what they have told the world previously, was that, okay, guys, our military capability in the Middle East, it is strong. But had their military been strong, do you think they'll still be in war today? No. Do you think Trump will be angry with NATO for not assisting them in this war? No. Trump got angry because, like, the US military got weakened in a week. Like I said, remember, the bases are surrounding the US, right? I mean, surrounding Iran. So we have the UAE, right? We have Kuwait, we have Bahrain, and then we have Saudi Arabia, right? So Iran, Iran, like the first week, like in the first, very first week of the war, Iran attacked all those bases, all of them. And by doing so, they weakened the military capability of the United States. But unfortunately, that's not what the United States reported. We are now learning about these casualties now. I've seen, like, a video from one of the news platform from the United States, actually talking about these casualties. A lot, like, the United States, they have lost so much in this Iran war. So the military overreach, which cost a lot of money, it is one of the reasons why the US dominance is collapsing, because they no longer have the strong military that they used to have in the past. They don't. And that is just the reality. You will hear Trump or Hexas or whatever those people, whatever their names are, they always say we have the best military in the world. But then here's the thing, right? Words are words, and the reality is that people report on what they see and not on what Hexas says, right? So in conclusion to this military issue is that the military of the US has been weakened. Now it is very weak. That is just the truth. And then we have the social unrest. Oh wait, how many factors have I discussed? I discussed the debt crisis, political division, economic decline, military overstretch. This thing is very expensive. We have social unrest in the United States. We have lost the last factor is loss of global trust. Loss of global trust. Let me tell you something, right? And I think this is something that um it is heartbreaking, to be honest. Like, when I think about it, it is heartbreaking. This is something that I feel like many Americans could reflect on. Honestly speaking, I just wish many Americans could really reflect on this issue, as to why did the United States suddenly lose global trust? Like, what led to the United States losing global trust? Guys, the Palestinian the this Palestinian war, the Gaza genocide. Actually, the Gaza genocide, it is something serious. It is something that needs to be taken seriously. It is not a joke. What's happening in Gaza is not a joke. And seeing countries like the United States supporting genocide, It is what has led to the United States losing global trust. There is no nation or there are no people who can trust a country that supports genocide. It's impossible. It's heartbreaking. It is truly heartbreaking. It is heartbreaking. It is heartbreaking. The United States was supposed to be the first country to condemn Israel. But what happened? They became the first country to support Israel. As a result, they lost global trust. It's painful. It's painful what's happening in Gaza, and it's painful. I just said earlier on that I saw this marathon. I saw this marathon of the Palestinians running in Gaza, and many of them young people. It's painful. You see young people amputated, no legs, no hands. Yeah, that is painful. So the last factor as to why the US dominance is collapsing, it is loss of global trust. That is the issue. So the US has lost global trust as a result of who they support and on what grounds. And I think another reason is the tariffs, those were imposed by Trump, also the unreasonable sanctions that they also impose in other countries. Because if you were to look into why did the United States sanction Cuba, there is no valid reason behind that. Like nothing makes sense. Why did the USA sanction Iran? Zero sense. Like nothing. It's like I have no idea how this country managed to be so powerful with its policies that oppress other countries out there. It's it's painful. It's painful to see people suffering because of the USA and them abusing their power. You know, the USA is like that CEO, that boss in a company whom abuse power. It's like they have power, then they abuse power. That's the US because they sanction whomever they want to sanction. They increase tariffs. Even with the World Cup, like they've made the World Cup boring for us, people who love soccer. You know, I was looking forward for this World Cup, but then with a lot of things that the United States it is involved in, like recently, and them banning countries from entering the United States is just illogical. It's crazy. They banned like Nigeria, Zimbabwe, so many countries without valid reasons. Without valid reasons. That's crazy. How are we supposed to enjoy World Cup when countries are banned from entering? Iran also is banned. It's just crazy. So that is the collapse of the US. And it is just right in front of our eyes, and it's happening. It is happening. The future of the US, it is unknown as of yet. So that's it. I'm gonna read the factors that I mentioned earlier or before as to why is the United States dominance collapsing. The first factor, debt crisis. As you have seen, the United States owes like 39 trillions. Second, political division. Political division also it is caused by many reasons. It could be the war with Iran. It could be national policies. There are so many reasons as to why there is political division in the United States. Second, economic decline. If you live abroad, I said I live in Thailand. I have lived in South Korea. You see, like as a South African, it's like you never expect to see or find um, Americans in other nations because they cannot afford to live in the United States. You know, we always think, oh, this person was born in the United States, oh, they're rich, oh, they have money, but that's not the reality. You know, the economy of the United States has been declining, affecting ordinary citizens. We have the military overstretch. This stems from the United States having many bases across the globe, which cost them a lot of money because they have to maintain those bases. And NATO also, they contribute a lot of money in NATO. That is why Trump was angry as to, I mean, when NATO refused to help him with the Iran war. But again, like we said, that NATO is not an attacking military agreement or whatever they call it, I mean organization. NATO, it is a defense organization, right? It is a defense. So the United States started the war with Iran. Iran did not attack the United States. Had Iran attacked the United States, it was going to be different. NATO was going to come to the rescue of the United States. But since it is vice versa, is not that, NATO cannot, based on their agreement, cannot fight this war with Iran. And then fifth, we have social unrest. We've seen that. We have the last factor is loss of global trust. Yes, 100%. There is no country today that trusts the United States. Zero. Not even their own people trust them. So that is it for the collapse of the US dominance. And where does this leave us? It leaves us with the multipolar system that very soon we will be witnessing. We're already witnessing it right now. In the past, we used to think that the US military is powerful, but Iran, it is showing the United States that no, you are not powerful. I am powerful. I have the same capabilities that you have. You have this, I have this. The missile capabilities of Iran, it shows you that, they also have power in something, not that like the US have power alone. No. So you can already see this shift from the US dominance to the multipolar countries. Or again, remember the US sanctioned these Chinese refineries. So China, not long ago, the China minister, I don't know his name, he announced that those sanctions don't apply to them, and that the companies of those refineries, those refineries, those five Chinese refineries, those who are functioned by the US, can continue operating. They can ignore the sanctions by the US. So you see, now we see that these sanctions by the US are no longer working. The power is shifting, and the ongoing rumors that BRICS want to start their own currency. Already, those who are following the Iran war, they've seen, or they have witnessed that that China, it is using yuan to pay for the gas or the oil in Iran, in the Gulf, in Iran. So already we do see this shift. It is happening. But we don't know. It hasn't happened, but we do see some things happening. We do see some things happening already. We do. Um, so that is just what's happening right now. We are moving from the US dominance to multipolar system and BRICS, but BRICS doesn't intend to dominate the world. I think the whole point of BRICS is to basically BRICS, when it started, it was about economy, like support those countries involved there economically, like trading. That's why China also, I don't know when was it, I forgot when was it. So China also announced like zero tariffs to African countries. So you see, it's about empowering one another, teaching one another about trade. It's not about I'm taking from you and then I have nothing to gain. So China is not just taking the African resources; they are trading with Africans, which is beautiful to see. But that is what's happening in the world. It's not about Chinese dominance. It's not about any other country's dominance. It's about all countries being able to participate in the global market. It is no longer about, I don't like you, I'm going to sanction you. I don't like you, I'm going to bomb you. I think that era has come to an end. And let's just hope the future USA administration will focus more on domestic issues than unnecessary global conflicts that we don't need, because not only are these conflicts affecting the US economy, but it also affects us, like the world today. You can see with the Iran war, you can see with what is happening with oil. So all people are affected by all of these things. So with that being said, I'm finished with my topic. Bye, bye, bye. So next time when I go live, I would like to talk about the history of Africa before colonialism, and try to actually learn about communism. Is communism really bad? Maybe we can do a quite reasonable distinction between communism and the democratic system, like which is better and which actually is a scam. So I don't know. We're just gonna watch videos and learn. This is all about learning, right? We are here to learn. So bye bye bye.